This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in Parker, Colorado. I'm here with Cracks in Consciousness. Since 2013, they've been helping others see themselves and their place in the world with new eyes. Opening your own cracks in consciousness where the world is more than we know. I am joined with the owner, author, mentor, storyteller, coach, you name it. Thanks so much for joining us here, McDowell.
Gary, thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Let's start off a little bit about yourself. Background, you were formally educated with a BA at Humboldt State University, a vast background in technology writing, really. As a systems analyst and engineer, you've worked with companies like Lockheed Martin and Worldwide Technology. That has enabled your unique combination of really creativity and analytical skills to form your own company. Share with me why you decided to launch out on your own.
That's a great question. So if you look at my background, and clearly you have,
Yes.
you would not think that where I was is how I ended up getting here.
Yes.
But in fact, there's a synergy to it that made perfect sense when I look back on it. As you said, I had 35 years as a technical writer and editor. And in that capacity, I had to be able to explain difficult concepts in easy to understand words. So I was able to take that and turn that into therapeutic storytelling. Because what are we looking at? Difficult concepts in terms of personal exploration. And now, how can we make that easy to understand? Then the next piece of it, of course, was I spent 30 years as a business process engineer. And so working along those lines, I, as you mentioned, help companies examine their current business processes and see if we can find more productive, easier ways to get from point A to point B. Now what can I do with that? I can then take that and turn that into personal re-engineering, how I can help people look at how they're navigating their daily lives, see if what they're doing is still in their best and highest interest, and maybe we can now look at, you're getting from point A to point B in a way that might be more efficient, but also smoother, more fulfilling, something that's in your best and highest interest.
So if a person looks deep within your background, they're going to see what's kind of a natural fit where you ended up. I mean, much was learned in the year 2020. We could call it the year that began personal exploration for many. Has exploration always been the key and foundation of your company and your mission?
It wasn't. In fact, I started with personal transformation.
Okay.
And my original focus was, okay, so now we can take the knowledge that you have with who you are, how you're navigating your daily life, and transform that into something.
Okay.
And looking back at that, I thought, I've missed a step. Because the first step really is personal exploration. You have to know where you're starting from before you can figure out where you want to get to. And so from that time to now my focus is personal exploration, learning how to change our perceptions of ourselves. And as you said with my website logo, and that is where the world is more than we know, but also trying to be able to figure out how we can see ourselves and our place in the world with new eyes. That's the journey.
You've definitely fine-tuned that. Makes sense to go on that progression. Be it 2020 or beyond, we all interact with the world from our own unique perspective. Does this perspective dictate how we approach new situations and encounters that we come across every day?
It absolutely does, because how do we perceive the world? We perceive the world in two ways. First, it's through our senses. What we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we smell. That's sensory, but that's in fact not how we navigate our daily lives. It's how we feel about what we're sensing that drives us to take certain actions.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. I have a leash reactive dog. His name is Rhaegar, and he loves people. Put him on a leash and he goes ballistic. So I know that about him, and I know that if I'm going to take him for a walk, I have to be aware of my environment, how I'm interacting with it, how I'm reacting to it, so that I know it's a safe environment for him. So we go to the park, I look around, I don't see anyone, I don't see any dogs, I don't hear any dogs, I'm sensing a good environment. How do I feel about it? I feel good. I'm going to stay, I'm going to put him on his leash, And what am I going to do as a result of my feelings about it? We're going to take a walk.
Oh.
Now, second time out, we go. I look around. There are people. There are dogs. There is barking. There's everything that's going to make him very uncomfortable. My sensors are telling me now how I feel about this environment isn't the same. It's not safe. It's not comfortable. What action do I take? I don't take him for a walk.
Making decisions based on the world around you.
Absolutely.
I mean, so really we're pulling from past and present experiences, our senses. Can our thoughts and beliefs limit our ability to see our present circumstances maybe in new ways? And is this kind of where you come in to help?
Absolutely true. I like the way Maya Angelou describes it. And she says, in order to avoid this bitter end, we must be reborn and born with the knowledge of alternatives. Because that is the key. Our perception of ourselves, if we can open that, if we can change it, then we can see new possibilities, we can see new horizons. And why is that so important? Because if we can't see the new, we can't be the new. And now our options for figuring out how to get from where we are to where we want to be
Interesting.
now are limited. And so that's the first thing we also want to look at is, I have a 3-step process called examine, envision, emerge. And the first step is examine. What are your current thoughts and beliefs? Are they limiting? Are they making it so that however you are trying to get from where you are to where you want to be no longer is working because you have a limited view of yourself and your place in the world?
I mean, so to get from where we are to get where we want to be requires some understanding of how we perceive our place in the world. Is this clarity something that I would say most are not born with, and we're definitely not taught?
Are we born with it? Absolutely.
Okay.
Are we taught it? Probably not. It's very easy to be in the world and not aware of the world. So learning how to examine where you are right now, the what is of your life, your present circumstances, your assumptions, your thoughts, your beliefs. Then learning how to envision what you might want to do next. This is where the knowledge of alternatives comes into play, because you have to know that there are an unlimited number of ways that you can get from where you are to where you want to be if you're willing to open yourself to that knowledge and know that. We all, at one time or another, have found ourselves saying, I couldn't do that in a million years.
Yep.
I'm guessing at this point it's unlikely I'm going to play for an NFL football team. That seems like not in a million years. But what we look at this step is, okay, that might be something you can't do, but let's break it down a little bit more and see, is there a piece of it that you could do?
You can do.
Absolutely. And then the next thing that most of us don't know how to do is, okay, I've done that planning, I've looked at my present circumstances, I've envisioned everything available to me, but now what? How do I take the first step? How do I find the motivation to take the next step? How do I find the momentum to keep taking every step after that?
What you have touched on basically is a journey to a new life begins with a single step. Your starting point is a proven 3-step process. Examine, envision, emerge.
Absolutely.
How did this process come about for you?
I locked myself in my own barn on New Year's Day in 2005. And that's a true story. For anybody watching today, if they want the gory details of that, it is up on my website. Mm-hmm. What I had to do, what I learned from that is, if you're in a situation that you're either not familiar with or you have no idea how to get yourself out, that's how I put this process together. Once I locked myself in the barn, true story, then I had to examine what was available to me to get out. I had to look at all of my options, of everything available to me to get out of that barn. What were my options? And what were the options that were in my best and highest interest, making sure that I wouldn't break my neck if I fell out of the barn when I finally got out of the barn. The emerge step was, okay, I've figured out the easiest way to get out of the barn. Now I have to take the step to do that. Once I put that all together, I was able to use that in every situation I have encountered since then.
And so obviously the answer is a personal story. It began with you locked up in a room.
Yeah.
I want to break down a little bit this process for the viewers. Examine what is. Examining without judgment where we are now. This foundational work, to me, sounds a little challenging. I mean, being honest with yourself, tell me what takes place at that first step.
Yeah, and as we said, non-judgmentally. That's why it's helpful to work with someone who can say, let's just talk about where you are right now. Mm-hmm. Don't judge it. Be objective. Having someone else bring an objective viewpoint to it is really helpful. We're simply looking at what is. Ram Dass calls this the seeds of awareness, and it's the foundation. Because if you want to get from where you are to where you want to be and set a new direction, you have to know where you're starting from. So we just chat about, what do you think about your present circumstances? Let's even talk about, what do you do right now for a living, perhaps? Let's look at your assumptions, your beliefs, your attitudes, your thoughts. Just give me an idea of how you see yourself.
So once you have this current assessment, next is envision what might be. I mean, this seems like kind of the fun part of the process to me. This is the part where you can maybe dream or maybe dream again, if you will. Is this where kind of a sense of purpose is revealed and then is developed?
It actually can be. But what I try to do with people is to say, step back from that.
Okay. Because
the sense of purpose, I actually wrote, my third book is all about figuring out your life purpose, even if you don't have one. Because it's very easy for us to fall into the mainstream thinking that we should be doing something with our lives and achieve some kind of purpose. And I think that's a trap to fall into, because your purpose in life could be as simple as being kind to someone, being courteous, helping your friends, taking care of yourself. So at this step, this is where it allows us to say, look at every single thing that's available to you that you might be able to do in order to get to some new place. And it doesn't have to be heroic. It doesn't have to be big. It's just, as I said, it's that don't think in terms of not in a million years. Think of every single thing that might be available to you and picture it. Again, what did I say earlier? Because if you can't see it, you can't be it. So you're going to envision not only this is what I could do, but the outcome of that as well.
So it doesn't have to be grandiose. No. It has to be personal. It has to be who you are and what you are. I mean, the final step, to bring dreams to actual reality. Does the tangible work begin with emerge? What will be? I mean, is this kind of where the rubber hits the road? It
absolutely is. Because this is where, now you've done your foundational work. This is where I'm starting from. Here's all the options available to me. Now, I want to pick one or two or three, and knowing the outcome, because that's very important. If I do this, this is going to happen. Now, is it in your best and highest interest? Whatever that might be. Once you get to that place, you now say, okay, I'm going to do this, and now this is the critical part. Now you take that first step, and then the next step, and every step after that.
Interesting. I mean, to watch this process go from thought to action, seeing that conscious effort play out, is that exciting not only for your client, but is that exciting for you to witness that?
Oh, I love it. I love it. And it's key to therapeutic storytelling, which is one of the things that you mentioned that I do.
Yeah.
Because therapeutic storytelling takes our own stories and the stories that others share with me.
Okay.
And we look at challenging situations, maybe limiting thoughts and beliefs. We offer possible solutions, insight, and reflection. Because sometimes the best way to heal ourselves is to read the story of how somebody else did it and got through to the other side, wounds and all. So for me, it's selfish, because now I can listen to my client and know this is so exciting for them. But at the same time, it becomes a story for me. I've learned from them something that I needed to hear, some new lesson I might have needed to learn. I've now got a new situation that helps me keep moving forward too, and I can capture that as their story.
regardless what it is that folks reach out to you for, be it mentoring, coaching, or your webinars. Do all the products and services have this process kind of as a foundation? Are you pulling from that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's a variety of products and services, but at the heart of it is, are you interested in examining your present circumstances? Not exactly sure how to do that. That's where intuitive mentoring comes in. I call that the been there, done that.
Yeah.
It's helpful to work with somebody who's a little farther along the path than you are.
Sure.
Maybe you're not trying to figure out options or anything else. What all you're trying to do is at this point say, I need some help looking at where I am right now. The emerge stuff, I do accountability coaching. This is what I call feet to the fire within.
Okay.
Because we're back to that emerge step. All that planning isn't going to get you anywhere if you don't know how to take that first step. T. Boone Pickens calls that the ready, aim, aim, aim syndrome, and I think that's a great way to describe it. So with accountability coaching, I can help someone look at, this is what you've decided to do. Now, how do we take the steps to keep going forward, and are there any obstacles in your way that you might have even put in your own way that you aren't going to be able to keep moving forward? I do writing and editing and publishing services. Because in personal exploration, what I find is that people often discover a message for themselves. Let us hope they've learned a lesson, they've looked at a limiting belief. But then, looking closer, it actually has a universal appeal.
Right.
And for those people, they'd like to share that message, what they learned, their solution, with a larger audience. So I help people craft the message, making sure it's in their own voice, editing it in whatever format they need, and then eventually publishing it. It can be books, website content, blogs, posts, a podcast, interview, transcript.
However, there's so many ways to share that message anymore.
Right.
I mean, you're a self-published author of multiple books. Is writing, you said it was selfish, but yet at the same time, when somebody's writing, is it less about self and become more about sharing our message with the world? With that writing, how do you help people kind of find their own voice?
Yeah. With therapeutic storytelling, this is how it usually happens for me first.
Okay.
The universe sends me an encounter, a situation, an experience, a relationship. Somewhere in there, there's a message for me. I either have to learn a lesson, maybe I have a limiting thought I didn't realize, maybe I have a belief that's holding me back, maybe I'm navigating my life in a way that I should be paying more attention because I'm not getting from where I am to where I want to be. Once I figure out what the message is, that's when I interview others.
Okay.
I look for people who have had a similar encounter, a similar situation, and I ask them, so tell me, what lesson is it that you learned? What is it that you got out of this? What solution did you come up with? And then that becomes the basis of the book. In each book also are a series of examine, envision, emerge exercises so that the reader can also see what we saw as the experience, what solutions we came up with, how we got to the other side, and can you do that in your own life and take that away for yourself and incorporate it?
So we've all heard that you don't have to reinvent the box, but you're basically saying you can ask others what they did when they found the box, how they affected them. You spoke of navigating your life. I mean, life is a journey, and our map is our thoughts and perceptions. We hear people say they're stuck on that road. Do these patterns that we've created make us feel stuck? And yet, if we created them, we can change those patterns. How can a life navigation chart help us with that?
Oh, that's great. Life Navigation Charts, that's a product that I offer. I like to think of it as the solution to Einstein's definition of insanity, where we keep repeating the same thing and expecting different results.
Yep.
Now, how are you going to be able to change the results if you don't know what the repeated pattern of behavior is? A life navigation chart allows us to look at unwanted, repeated behaviors that have caused ourselves or others harm or unhappiness in our daily encounters, situations, events, relationships. We look at, this is how I behaved.
Okay.
There was harm or unhappiness. This was the outcome of that behavior. I don't want to do that any longer. I'd like to change my definition of insanity and not do it. I'd like a new outcome. Again, where we are to where we want to be. How can I achieve that outcome? Well, I can look at the unwanted repeated behavior, and then I can identify what's the behavior that I could replace it with.
Yeah.
And what would the new outcome be that would then allow me to no longer cause myself or others harm or unhappiness? And what I like about the life navigation chart, of course, is that you are no longer a victim of your past. The future is no longer charted by your past behavior.
Yep. You've got new patterns you can create and quit doing the same thing over and over. I mean, you have helped others execute a perception transformation, an opening of the mind. With a crack in consciousness, they begin to see new possibilities and chart a new course towards a brighter future. Does this continue to be rewarding for you, and is this truly your place in the world right now?
This absolutely is my place in the world, because being able to focus on this now, because as I mentioned, I spent 35 years as a technical writer.
Yeah.
I spent 30 years as a business process engineer. I've worked most of my life and was able to take all of that I learned from it and now turn it into this opportunity to help others, because to me, the bottom line is when we can change our perception of ourselves and our place in the world is open to us in new ways. And the most important thing that I like to point out to people is when I talk about cracking open your consciousness,
Yes.
I'm not saying that we're going to look at every single thing you believe, every attitude you have, every thought you have, and crack it all open. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. Because sometimes all it takes is that subtle shift in perspective, that opening of the mind, even an initial and intentional pause and reset to now say, okay, let's get going again.
I read it as a slight crack can make a huge difference.
Oh, I love that.
Just a little bit. That slight crack can make a huge difference. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is her website. On the website, you can learn about all the products and services she provides. Look at each step in her proven process. Each one of us has a story. This story can motivate, inspire, and even heal. Really help others heal. What is your next chapter? Are you satisfied with how you see your place in the world? Reach out today for affordable, smart, and easy-to-use tools. Once again, that is Cracks in Consciousness, where the world is more than we know. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and if you don't know, now you know.